then skip over to the next part of the book cover to our, I guess, from our regional vice president. Right at this point, I would like to invite our guest of honor. Our guest of honor is the Director of Communication, Ministry of Technology and Science, and he will be giving us his address. And I would like to thank the guest of honor for making the time, first of all, to be here. Really value the presence here, and we certainly look forward to working with your ministry as society to improve internet access in this nation. So I invite you to start with the remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Director of Communication, Ministry of Technology and Science, Mr. Yese. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Do you mind if I say while I give my remarks? I'd like to hear a better view of everybody. Is it okay? Thank you. And then before I also get into my speech, I would like to invite to suggest that I know we're keeping trying to keep with the health guidelines in terms of COVID, but I think there is so much. Is it possible that we can have Okay, thank you. Let me begin by, first of all, recognizing the presence of the president of the Internet Society, Zambian chapter, and also to recognize our deputy regional director as coordinator for the regional chapter of the Internet Society, and then the distinguished members that I made it that are present here, our friends from the media. I just want to say good morning to everybody, and to thank Mr. President and your chapter for extending the invitation to the ministry to come and officiate at this important occasion, the launch of the chapter, the Internet chapter. As I was making my way to this place, I was asking myself whether I should, go ahead and read the speech, or I should just come and talk to you, or give a few remarks. The reason is because this is very close to my heart. This is the only thing that I've ever done in my life. Just technology, and I've spent the greater part of my life trying to promote this particular sector in different situations, both in the private sector before and now in the public sector. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here to witness the launch of the Zambian chapter. This is year 2021. We just learned that the initial efforts to begin setting up the chapter is 1998. I don't know how many of you here were already born then. I'd like to believe it's everyone, but 1998 is the way back. If you check again to see how old the internet is, you will notice that these efforts started a few years after the internet was launched. So for us to have taken so long to begin to have a chapter today, which is good, first of all, in itself, but that we have really delayed in so many ways. And this delay has resulted in a huge cost to our people in terms of having a voice that would speak on their behalf, their interest. Now, when I sit and speak to members, friends and colleagues in a platform like this, there's always one important thing that strikes me, especially when you're dealing with stakeholders in this particular sector. Because we talk about internet, like it's a decision that we have to make at some point in terms of how we want to govern ourselves. But we forget that internet is a network of networks. One network connecting to another network, connecting to another network. We really don't even have a choice. That's right. The only reason why we need to sit together like this to discuss internet is because of the different stakeholders. Different networks serve different purposes, have different desires, and they're set up for different purposes, but they connect together. So in this interconnection, there is, of course, some engagement to try and agree on how we talk to each other, okay? And that's why you find certain parts of the network sometimes can be disconnected, one part, because we are not engaging properly. So in order for us to keep a network, a global network working, we need to understand how these stakeholders work together and the needs of these stakeholders and their desires. That's how you truly keep a network, the internet working. It's not one single network. There are different networks and different stakeholders in this. And that's why a conversation, whenever we meet to advance the interest of ordinary people, for them to have access to internet, we should recognize that there are different stakeholders with different needs. Sometimes when we decide to be a little bullish and say, no, we don't need simply, they will move out of the network and it will not be serving anyone's interest. So that for us, our work is cut out for us already because we know what we were supposed to do. But let me get to share a few points that I thought would be important for us. All of us seated here are witnesses to the incredible power has in terms of transforming lives. We are beneficiaries of what internet can do in terms of transforming both our lives, transforming our society, and including creating opportunities for all of us, are witnesses. This story, we know it very well. We don't actually need anyone to tell us what the benefits of internet. For some of us who are seated, in fact, I would say for all of us, we've been on this for some time, so we know the benefits. The question, when we sit in a place like this as members of an institution that is set up to advance the interest of ordinary people out there, the question we should always ask is, are we ready and capable of delivering the same benefits that we are enjoying to those millions of our brothers and sisters who are out there, who are yet some of them to go online? And it's not one, it's not two, there are many. There's so many of our brothers and sisters we may not sometimes connect to biologically or whatever, but I have gone around this country and I know that there are some people, some young children, boys and girls at school, who are yet to get online, to have access to educational material, the materials that we take for granted. There are many of our uncles and our mothers who are yet to make a phone call to a relative abroad or a relative in town here to have a conversation. There are many. We should be sufficiently motivated and moved. The work we have today is for us to be able to take the benefit that we are enjoying today to others. Now, that requires a little bit of, first of all, introspection of what we are doing as a society or as an association or as a chapter, and also to look at what the barriers are that are preventing so many of our people to have access to a platform or a tool that is so transformative, that can change people's lives overnight. Remember, every time you have access to communication, you are closer to where help is. You are closer to where opportunities are. You are much, much closer to a better life. That's what it means. Now, earlier on, when one of our members was talking, he said that the cost of internet is one of the barriers. But let me illustrate why the issue of cost in itself should be a motivation for us. You know, if today I was to ask you, or now if I was to ask you, not today, if now I was to ask you, what would you prefer? Should I get you some bundles or I buy you lunch? What would be your answer? Yes, you say, this question, you take it for granted. It illustrates the importance of communication and why we need to be connected. Because you know that having those things still puts you in a better chance to get resources, or even lunch, that you have denied yourself in the first place, isn't it? That's what happens. When you have communication, you stand a better chance of getting some of the help that you need. That's why you are prepared to forego lunch or a good meal so that you can get communication, because with that, the potentials and the opportunities are widened. Because you can call a brother, you can call a sister, you can call a friend, and one of them would probably come back to you and say, okay, come home and they have lunch. That's the reason why we choose bundles. Out there in rural areas, they probably don't have that much choice. Here we have a choice. So what we need, members, is for us to begin some very serious conversation about how we help so many of our brothers out there to have access to the global network, where resources are, where communication is, where the opportunities are. That's what we need. And today, the internet is not there to advance and save economic and social interest in a narrow sense. It's also a platform for civic engagement. We are happy here today, all of us, every day, to wake up to see what's going on in the country and post a few of your views, your own views about what you've seen to be happening, and participate in the running of the country. Every time you send a picture of yourself, in the company of maybe an official who's important, it communicates what you're doing at that particular time in terms of you being actively involved. Every time you post your reaction to a news item about what has been said by a political leader, you are participating. But there are those that are not connected, who are not participating in the political life of this country. And these are so many of them. Now, from the things that we've learned in civics and others at lower primary and mid-primary, is that what we are doing simply is keeping those people out of our civic life. So there is a word for it, isn't it? When you don't bring people to participate in the well-being and the running of the country, there is a word for it, and I don't want to use it. So this is what we are doing. So every time we sit, we have to have that at the back of our mind, the disadvantage and the disservice that we do to our people. I just wanted to speak to your way. in terms of to remind you about what the things that you need to do. Because we don't have to take advantage and take for granted the role that we have. We are in a position of leadership right now. The leadership doesn't come any bigger than this. Okay? You don't have to wait to be in another position where you are, your voice, in so many Zambians out there, there's 19 million Zambians, very few of them have the voice that you have. We can call here and have the media and we can talk because we have a voice. But there are so many of people who can't even speak to a journalist. Some of them can't even walk into a local office of maybe a member of parliament to air their views. So there are so many people who don't have the voice. So every time we have this opportunity, we have to recognize that we're in position of leadership. So we shouldn't serve our own narrow interests. We should speak on behalf of so many. We have vested interest, I know. We want to make sure that the internet grows in a way or functions in a way that serves our interest. No, it should serve the interest of everyone else. Now, what's the interest of everyone else? Where I stand in my position, these interests are varied and complex. Okay? If you wanted to understand how complex people's needs are, sometimes you need to move yourself from all these other things and set, you know, and I'm lucky to, I'm fortunate to sometimes get this. There are people out there who are sending children to school. Some of them in properly resourced schools where they have access to internet. These families, some of them have brought up their children in an environment where they are taught to have certain values, and they expect that they will continue as they go into a school environment. They have protected their children from access to pornography. They have protected their children from access to hate material. They have protected their children from all sorts of, you know, things that we consider, almost all of us, as wrong. They have done so, and the only risk they take is when they take the child to the school environment, because at that point they lose control. So how do we serve the interest of those parents? How do we guarantee that the children will go into schools and have access to internet, but they'll still not be exposed to materials that you don't want? How do we encourage parents to do that? That's one. Secondly, how do we also protect those children? Because the internet we want is the internet that we, in our view, is an internet where we should never control there. In other words, anyone should have access to anything. We should not allow kind of human conduct, because the internet on its own is neutral. Just like a knife, others will stab others will use it for cutting vegetables. Neutral. So you can't regulate the knife, you regulate the conduct. So we have special access. Yes, they would have even fines to pay for it. But do we want them to be exposed to everything, especially for children? So we need to have, at some point, agree that there are certain segments of our society that need protection. Isn't it? There are certain things we should agree as a society. So that's one interest. Then there is another interest. There are those people, we have those people who have invested almost their lives in trying to defraud others, cause problems for others. And they find going online where they are not known, because they can create so many identities, they can go all around and start defrauding people. They have interest. And there are those innocent ones who go there because they want to purchase a dress, they want to purchase something, because they know that internet can deliver those services. when we're advancing these interests, we also need to make sure that we protect either both of them or just one of those two groups. Because there are criminals who also feel the internet should not be tampered with, and no one should bring any regulations or whatever controls on how we do it. They don't want messages to be encrypted, because what they want is to be seeing everything that is passing there, so that they take the opportunity whenever it presents itself to throw that. Isn't it? Because in the minds of internet free speech advocates, even encryption is a problem. Why do you have to encrypt? Because it simply takes away from what we call unfettered access to internet. There are those that have extreme views about access to internet. Okay? So again, we should agree on how we advance the interests of society or certain stakeholders in terms of what we do and how we proceed to do those things. I am thinking that as we sit together, interesting when we meet like this to talk about this, and if I had the time, I would sit here the whole day with you so that I can share with you some of the things that, areas where we need to really, place our, not just our priorities, but where we expend our time and energy, because those things are very important in terms of advancing universal access to internet. We will continue having the discussion, and it's a health discussion about how much control should be there. It's always a health argument, and we should continue doing it, because there is no monopoly on knowledge or one single sectoral interest that we need to promote. No, we can't promote just one interest. We need to balance, isn't it? And this balancing act is what requires us, or cause for us to come together almost all the time to have the discussion around this. And we should be open-minded when we're having this discussion. In my technologies, this is what I have said. This is what and this is what I do. The last thing that I need, is a law that requires me to look over my shoulder every time I go online. That's the last thing I need. But when I sit in that office, or we serve in these offices, public offices, I have to remove myself from there and look at the children and look at our innocent mothers and sisters, some of them who are not digitally literate, who innocently go on an ATM believing that everything they see there is okay and can be trusted. We have to protect the interest also of our leaders, who sometimes, because they choose to serve us, they also offer to be themselves and all their lives to be made plain and laid bare in front of the public. So they give us everything they have about themselves. So we, and because we have access, we know them very well, and sometimes for good reasons, we use that information. Sometimes for bad reasons, we start hating them, or we start abusing each other. So ladies and gentlemen, you are in a club, if I can call it that way. That is very interesting. That's very progressive, because this is a field that is very dynamic. It defines what we do and will be doing in the future. It's all going to be defined through the use of this global network. So I'm happy that today, Mr. President, we are finally launching the chapter that would do exactly that. That is advancing the interest of internet users. I would prefer that the focus is much more on internet users than the infrastructure, because on the infrastructure, we don't have a choice. Like I said, networks connect to each other out of one, voluntary, and sometimes through engagement. And this is the reason why I was emphasizing this point. Is that's the whole reason why you find certain societies at some point they decide We don't want to be online. At sometimes they say we want to be online. You know, sometimes they don't. In most cases, what they are doing is they are taking away the benefit from the people to serve maybe a certain interest again. So it's a conversation we need to have continuously, and I think for the society, this is an important point for all of you. So, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, this day is a special day because it heralds the start in earnest of an association of our work that should result into a better life for everyone. The statistics we are hearing about internet connectivity are still chilling statistics. We shouldn't accept it. Especially today, after so many years of being online, we're still struggling to get everyone on. There are fundamental challenges which are beyond yourselves. The ability for people to pay for internet, for people to get talk time, are far beyond our work. Although we can continue advocating for that, that is dependent on people's own capacity to pay. So it's also socio-economically, it's underlying factors of economic well-being. But that should not deter us from pursuing discussions and engagement and lobbying for the cost of internet to come down. Fortunately for us, because of the advancement in technology, most of us are accessing internet via mobile. Now, the penetration rate for mobile today is over 100%. We are standing at 104% because we have 19,000 subscribers. Now, that does not mean everyone has because of duplicate SIM card. So there are those that have more than one SIM card. You heard what I've said. How unfair this world can be. We have more than 19,000 subscribers, more than the population. Okay, Mr. President, I want you to listen to this and to get what I'm trying to get. We have in this society more than 19,000 subscribers, million subscribers, which takes our penetration rate to over 100%. From the statistical point of view, everyone has, isn't it? Connection. But that's not true. And the reason, as we know, all of us, is because there are people with 2 or 3 SIM cards. So if you had any doubts about how unfair we can be as a society, that we can have people who have 2 SIM cards when there's a child without a single, or a family without a single SIM card. If you needed to solve a problem, because when you talk about human greed, okay, and you also talk about our lack of what you call, what I would like to call a failure, our failure to address the issue of equality, the growing divide in society, where we have, in some families, almost everyone in the family, children, they all have SIM cards on their phone. 200 kilometers away, there is literally an entire community without a single SIM card. And we're looking around to find a solution to this. Because very soon we'll get to 22 million subscribers. Far much, well beyond the population. Because a few privileged people today still want to have more and more and more. So we have to deal with the issue of equality. or equity. You can't close this digital divide when you have greedy people. The society is itself has such underlying problems of greed. These are discussions. That's what I'm saying. We need to be sober when we discuss these issues. We should forget about, what we have achieved, in our academic, life. And no, some of these things, these matters come down to the basics, who we are as human beings. And begin from there, having such honest discussion about why we need to improve the distribution of wealth in the country. We should not, there are certain things we should not be accepting. So ladies and gentlemen, before I dampen your, your spirits with my very extreme views about society and the problems that we have that sometimes stand in the way of our work, a noble way, I would like to just once again, first of all, applaud and commend you, Mr. President and your team, for your relentless effort to make sure that the chapter is formed and to have and organize, the launch that we are witnessing today. It's my sincere hope that the actual launch will rally more and more of our members and others to see the need for them to come to the table and give a broader conversation on issues that are so present in terms of driving the interest of internet users and those that are not even connected to the internet. With those remarks, it's now my singular honor and privilege to officially to declare the launch of the Zambia Internet chapter officially launched. Thank you so much.
Making another round of applause. I'm excited. Thank you so much. Very valuable insights that you gave around the discussions that we need to be having around the internet, especially with regards to how we need to have this conversations about how do we advance the internet and ensure that people have access while protecting the interests of internet users, while protecting those people who are there to look for opportunities for those who are there to scam them, which has been quite common. And I am glad that the Internet Society is not just an organization that seeks to advance a particular agenda, but this is a place where we can have those conversations as different stakeholders, different users of the internet. This is a place that is open to all of us to come to the table and have those discussions. Some of them may be difficult conversations, but this is a place where we can have those conversations and find solutions. So thank you so much for those insights, for making the time. Very honored. I have really enjoyed the address, and I have some food for thought with regards to it. Thank you so much. I will allow our president to make a few comments, especially in line with the goals and objectives of the Zambia chapter of the Internet Society. Mr. President.
Thank you, Stanley, and thank you so much, guest of honor. Perhaps before I do the sharing for our goals and objectives, I'll allow the Vice President to give his opening remarks and statement as well via Zoom. So we should be able to mainly get the audio from his speech. But before that, let me use this opportunity to maybe make an extension to invite the guest of honor to our Zambia IGF, where we mainly talk about the governance system of the internet. We realize not everyone is learned enough to safeguard themselves online. And so when we're talking about the internet space, of course, everyone can access, but not everyone is security conscious. And so as the internet society, we're not only seeking to have more people have access, but also have access from a point where they are knowledgeable about how they can also be safe in terms of being free from fraudsters or scammers. And so if it pleases you, we would like to host you and have you be part of the launch for the Zambia IGF. Should be in the first week of November, first or second November, and hope to see you so that we can have this conversation in depth and more at length, because I think it'll be more for almost the whole day. So it would be great to have this conversation and see how we can help more people be safe online. But in addition to that, we'll be having a few other events where we talk about how youths can actually have access to resources online that can help them generate wealth, money, and so on and so forth. Those are some of the things that we have planned ahead. But for now, it was mainly a focus on introducing who we are and some of the things that we intend to do. But before I say so much, allow me to invite the Vice Regional President for Africa Internet Society to address us. Mr. Dawit Bekele, he'll be addressing us virtually. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Honorable Mr. Permanent Secretary of Technology and Science, dear President of Internet Society Zambia chapter, distinguished officers and members of the Zambia Internet Society chapter, and invited guests. First of all, let me congratulate you for this important milestone. I know that you have been working for several years to establish this chapter, and I think you deserve a lot of congratulations for your achievement. The establishment of an ISOC chapter is always very important because it shows that the community has started to work on on solving its own problems, because the internet is something, as you all agree with, very important for the development of any country in today's world. And this cannot be done just by the efforts of the government. It is very important that everyone from the technical community to other stakeholders contribute to its development. For this reason, as some of you have already indicated, the Internet Society chapter is open to anyone who wants to join. It is really a very important forum that can help the development of the internet in the country. It is very difficult to say anything after the eloquent speech of Mr. Permanent Secretary, but I would like to say a few words on what the chapter should expect as it goes forward. I remember, I am an old veteran of the internet. Maybe I have been working around the internet for the last 30 years. And 25 years ago or something, I thought Africa had a big problem to solve with regards to the internet. And it was difficult because at that time, very few people had access to the internet. In fact, there were many countries that didn't have access to the internet at all. We didn't have fiber optics coming to our shores. And we thought that this is the biggest problem that we had to solve. It's true in the last decade especially, we have really improved in bringing internet to our population. Some 15 years ago, there was less than 1% of Africans that have access to the internet. Today, we have about 1/3 of African population has access to the internet, which is not enough, but is a major success compared to what it was 15 years ago. And with regards to the bandwidth, I wouldn't imagine some 10 years ago that I would be able to talk to you with such quality video. Today, it is possible almost in every capital city. I cannot say in every village in Africa, but at least in almost every capital city in Africa. Therefore, we have achieved a lot. However, the problems keep on multiplying. Back then, it was just bringing access to our population. Today, it's much more. Security has become a major issue. Privacy, another major issue. As we get more and more internet, we are asking ourselves, what do we do with it? Of course, we want to change our economy with it. We want to bring better education. We want to improve the way our government provide its services to the population. We want our people to communicate, and not only within our countries, but between African countries. For example, the African Free Trade Agreement cannot work if we don't communicate among ourselves. So there are many new questions that have come to the forefront, and that the new generation have to solve. You have to discuss and find solutions for many of today's problems that are sometimes more complex. Mr. Permanent Secretary talked about encryption, which is a major issue for the internet society. I understand that law enforcement agencies don't like encryption because it makes their work hard. But without encryption, we don't have internet. We can't really use the internet the way we use it today if we don't have strong internet. When we access our bank, we need internet. When we use the internet to communicate important government information, we need encryption. Therefore, we really have to, and I agree with the Permanent Secretary about that, we really have to have lots of discussions and make sure that what we choose is in the interest of our countries. Let us not have knee-jerk reactions, which are the worst reactions to have. Let us have educated reactions. Let us know what are the consequences of everything that we do. And the chapter is a very important venue for this kind of discussions. I'm very happy to see many young people in the chapter because it is important that the new generation is at the helm of those discussions because it is about their future. I wish I was much younger today because there are many more opportunities, but also it's not impossible nowadays to achieve anything if we don't have an internet we can rely on. Therefore, every Zambian needs to have a reliable, trustworthy, and good internet access. And that cannot be achieved by the government alone. Every Zambian has to work with the government. And I think the chapter gives the opportunity not only to discuss, but also to learn from others, because one of the biggest benefits from the Internet Society chapter is that you have other chapters who can help you. Sometimes when you are isolated by yourself, you think that there might be a problem that might seem unsurmountable. But you'll soon realize that other countries had the same issues, the same problems, and they have found solutions. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can learn from others, and I believe you can contribute to make the internet in your country better. I can say a lot, but I would like to finish with a positive note, saying that the chapter comes at a very crucial moment and a very bright moment in the history of the internet. There are so many things that you can do today that were not possible in the past, and I'm sure that the chapter will help bring more Zambians to the internet, but also make sure that the internet contributes to make the lives of Zambians better. Thank you.
He pointed out quite a number of things, and from what I was able to catch, he spoke of some of the successes that we have scored and some of the conversations that we need to have around issues like privacy and the like. So thank you so much for that address. And at this point, we are going to take maybe 2 questions for the Director of Communications, our guest of honor, before we allow him to leave. So if there is anyone who has a question, you may raise your hand. Just taking a few questions. So we'll have those questions, and then afterwards we'll have a break. Here you go.
Thank you very much. Good morning once again. I just wanted to find out what's the status of the national IT policy. I think the last review was that it was under review. I just wanted to find out at what stage.
May also take in advance the next question before I allow you to answer. Anyone else with a question? Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you so much. This is Esther from the I'm curious, what are the plans for the Ministry of Technology for Internet access in the coming years, and what can we expect as we?
Thank you. Thank you, May.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for those 2 persons. Let me start with the person from grassroots. He said it's a grassroots, internet grassroots?
Digital grassroots.
Digital grassroots. Your name again? Esther. Okay, thanks. Let me start with Esther's question, and then I'll come to the ICT policy. For some of you who have been listening to the president's speech, first the inaugural speech, the parliamentary speech at the opening of the first session of the National Assembly. I call it a first session in the current administration, but also in the manifesto, European manifesto. I think it's very, very clear in terms of the intentions. The intention is to transform the country into a digital economy. Now, transform a country into a digital economy, that sounds loaded when you say digital economy, because it has several pillars. Essentially what actually government is saying is that they will address a number of pillars. One of the pillars there is on infrastructure, on the digital economy pillar. That is improving access to internet across. There is a stress in the statements and all throughout the president's speeches about inclusiveness. That's a key word. So inclusiveness means that we need to extend current internet connectivity to everyone. So dealing with the last mile connectivity, the missing link in some cases. We have sometimes connectivity up to a certain point in our rural area, but that doesn't go far enough in terms of getting into schools, hospitals that are very rural, and in some cases into some community areas where people can have access. So while we have the presence of internet in so many places, almost every province, but we still have to reach people on their desktops, on their doorsteps. And that's where the push is and the priority is expanding internet access, especially fixing the last mile connectivity, so that we drive a digital economy. Now, you can't have a digital economy when other people are not participating. Then it's an economy that only serves a few, isn't it? So that's why that particular policy, intervention is important on extending connectivity to there. So it's very, very clear to there. But there are also other things that I would like to speak to that are also contained, if you may allow me, that are also contained in the policy pronouncements that the president has made. And you also find it in the reports now that are coming out regularly and consistently. Is the issue of dealing with education, skills, digital skills, and digital literacy. For some of our citizens, technology came years after they had finished school, or they were already grown up and whatever. So they are at a point where they are missing already on some skills. Some of them don't even have the basic literacy skills, normal literacy skills, functional skills. And then we are putting on top of that a new demand for digital skills, and for them to be able to function. Because remember, every time you get a phone, you buy a phone and you are by yourself, You try and figure out what you do whenever. Now, if you don't have those digital skills, even when somebody gives you this for free, it will be a problem for you to function. That's why we require digital literacy in the country, so that ordinary citizens, including our parents, mothers, uncles, and grandfathers, as soon as they have the phone, they're able to function. We should move away from, and this is quite interesting discussion. How many times have you seen people who are well dressed, looking seemingly very, very educated, go to the ATM and they ask a guard to help them access the money? How many times? So many times, because they lack digital literacy. So we need, as a country, to try and push that. Otherwise, we'll still have people who will not be participating because they don't have the necessary literacy levels to function in a digital world. Then the other one is entrepreneurship and innovation. Innovation is very important for one part. Technology, sometimes if you do not have a deliberate policy or strategy to have it homegrown, becomes a problem, because we'll be always dependent on others and they'll be doing things for you. So you'll not be able to express yourself in the way that you want to express it. In other words, you won't deal with your problems adequately. So we need innovation. In other words, where we have young people, young boys and girls, who could go out there and create solutions for us. This level of innovation is needed. So we need to build a cadre of innovators and support them, so that we look less and less outside, and we focus on ourselves, so that most of the apps that we need for us to transact online, for us to be able to chat, for us to be are done from here. Once we have that done, then we are in control of our own destiny. We can even dictate the pace of development. But when we have to rely on others, they'll tell you when a new app is coming, and we all have to adjust. So that's one other point that is a major focus. The other one is entrepreneurship, which is connected to closely, coupled with innovation. Now, this is digital entrepreneurship. What we are talking about is those young innovators who come up with products, innovative products. Some of them want to be supported so that they can turn it into a business. Okay? Because you can be an innovator, but not be willing to go into business. But there are those that innovate products and they want to start launching themselves into a business so that they can actually monetize their products and services. In other words, create value for themselves. So we have that also is very, very clear in terms of focus. So I've spoken about digital economy, innovation and entrepreneurship, digital entrepreneurship, and digital skills. For us to have digital skills, I think there will be also a lot of work that will be done to try and review our curriculum. And that's very important. Our curriculum needs to be reviewed in capital letters. Why? Let me repeat what I said on the last forum when I was objecting. This year alone, I don't know who from here who's coming from the education sector. This year alone, we've sent 1,000 plus children to enter grade 1, okay, first grade. These children that have entered, this is 2021. These children that have gone into our school system this year, and there are thousands, they'll only become useful citizens in 15, 17 years, 20 years from now. Okay? The thousands of kids that have entered grade 1 this year will only become useful citizens 15, 17, 18, in some cases, 22 years from now, because that's when they need to finish, isn't it? But they are going into a school system to learn the things you and me have learned, and we expect them to be useful citizens 20 years from now. How would the world be looking like 20 years from now, or 5 years from now? So we'll be even expecting too much from them. So we can sit and say, no, this will fix itself. Or we can become, as part of our work as advocacy, to try and get these things fixed. We don't have to wait until they finish 20 years from now and start expecting them to acquire the skills that they need to function. No, we know that technology is changing, the world is changing. Let's change the curriculum so that they learn things that will make them useful citizens 20 years from now. And it's sitting like that with collective wisdom to try and help those that are running our education system to fix it. So every time you see a leader stands up and says we need to fix the education system, they are precisely referring to these things, because you and us, me and you, we have finished school and we are relevant today and whatever we are doing. But those that we're sending to school today, we need to prepare them adequately. A world that we know very well will be totally different from the way the world is. Totally different. I mean, you know, the other day I was like, yeah, I can go on talking. The other day I was watching a movie. In fact, when I was young, I used to watch a movie. Part of the reason why I even ended up studying technology is because I was fascinated by space technology, you know, astronauts, and seeing these guys seated in a control center and making all sorts of decisions and whatever. I said to myself, no, I need to be one of those. So, and then I watched several movies about, you know, space. They are shot in Hollywood and in some other places, okay? But today, they're shooting a movie in space, okay? What used to be a movie, people here shooting a movie and imagining how space looks like, people have gone there to shoot a movie talking about space, about Earth. That's how interesting the world is. So we are getting to a place that very few of us can even conceptualize of how the world will look like. And that brings me to the last point on a point that I was making. With 5G today and the Internet of Things, because remember when we started this discussion about advancing the interest, with respect to Internet, advancing the interest of people. But we know that with 5G technology, the number of gadgets that will connect will far outstrip the number of people. course, we'll connect our microphone, our microwaves, we'll connect our TV, we'll connect whatever. So that will far outstrip. So whose interest are we going to be protecting to advance? Because the internet will serve the interest of drivers of cars that are driving with all sorts of sensors and whatever. That's what the internet will now be responsible for. And will become a smaller player probably as human beings. So that will define also our work as a chapter. How do we advance interest of sorts of things that are connected together because of the Internet of Things? So it's another part, interesting part for you as a chapter to have a conversation on. Okay, it's an ethical also question that you can connect so many microwaves. You can connect so many things in your house, microwaves. You know, you control your gate from whatever, and windows and everything else. And you have a neighbor who doesn't even have a phone to call for help. But you have a, you know, you're able to open the gate and the door to your pets, you know, where it sleeps in a, you know, but your neighbors can't even, you know, call for help when they're sick. So there are all sorts of issues as we expand. That's why I said we should hurry up and connect our people. Otherwise, we'll be feeling a little, you know, not just frustrated, but helpless. Some of our people are not connected, but we're connecting cars. Right. So let me get now to the other issue. Your name again. Let me just try and get Brenda.
Bwalya.
Oh, Blanda. Okay. Blanda or Blanda, whichever. Okay. Very good. Your question is what we're doing about where we are with the ICT policy. It's a policy, isn't it? Yeah, as you already, most of you are aware, the ICT policy that we are using today that has guided us all the way up to here was done in 2006. So it's quite an old policy. We have the Act 2006 and 2009 documents that we are using today that have guided us up to there. And I have to say, I participated in the formulation of that policy. I have to say that the people that did that were quite visionary. You know, most of the things that we're still talking about today, there's still a great deal of the discussions that we're even having today. They are contained in that policy, but it has outlived its life and useful. So we started the process of reviewing it and having a new policy before we went into the election. So what we're doing is, you know, picking it up again, and the process is continuing. And it's at a good stage where we need now to factor in the new aspirations of not just the people at this point, but also our leaders to try and you know, help us in terms of pointing us to the places where we need to be. So to answer your question, it's currently under that stage of development. It's probably going to take a shape where a little more engagement will be needed, given what I've just said in terms of the changes, not just in technology, but the changes also in terms of our aspirations, and maybe also the sense of agency. So I think we'll be getting, as an association, you definitely get a call or notification to alert you in terms of the process, how it's going to be in terms of roadmap, as they call reloaded. Okay, so those are the two questions that I had. I don't know if you have adequately covered them, but if not, I wouldn't mind, and I'm happy to speak to anything that you think haven't addressed. Thank you.
We feel our questions have been adequately addressed. Would you like to question?
Thank you so much for that response. The motivation for the forward to start. So I guess I just want to know the timeline. When we expect the time for results.
That's interesting. I don't know. I can commit to anyone from where I'm seated. But if you listen to the last press conference, no, it's the last press conference. No, it's the first press conference that the president had. I was asked something to do with the timeline, and he used the word yesterday, and I think I will stick to that. Yeah, I'll stick to that. In short, what he's saying that there's a sense of agency that is being placed on almost all these things in terms of delivery. And for figuratively speaking, it has to be done as soon as possible, and that's why we're using the word. I hope you understand. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you for all you broke down the previous questions. I like the point very important that we are getting to a point where we can conceptualize of the future of all contact. Yeah, so then I like the point where you talked about, innovation and entrepreneurship, where you talk about having open hands towards entrepreneurship and, innovative ideas. The president talked about things like SMEs, brain, talks a lot about that. We are the people trying to push these innovations and entrepreneurship prevention. And I personally feel if people are working with an opportunist mindset instead of actually engaging with us, because I'm coming from our setup where there's so many ideas back in our universities, and we don't have people to go to the sense that I'm comfortable feeling about it. It's a sense where you come up with an idea and you feel I wish to be speaking when instead of working on an opportunist mindset where we only make ourselves feel the best projects, why can't you usually engage with us to say, okay, we want this to be actualized. I understand that people doing this one come from that. So that was just what came to my mind.
Mr. President, you have to invite me for very, very in-depth discussion with your members. Let me just say with our members, because I'm part of this member. You've been to my office when we were doing this thing. So I'm just part and parcel of what we are doing today. The issue of innovation is a very interesting topic, and I'm glad that your name again? Yes. Innovation is not something that you can say, you pick people and say, you move this side, and can you begin working on something that is done? It's self-driven. Innovative minds sometimes, in fact, in my understanding, I'm giving you my personal, are self-driven. They're self-motivated. They are driven by the need to produce something. That's why innovators don't always become business people. Most innovators don't end up becoming business people. They simply produce the product because their primary motivation is to provide a solution. So they're driven by the outcome, which is the immediate outcome of what they are working. Somebody is to find a solution. I've met some who have come to me and said, I've come up with a product, very nice. From the comfort of your office, director, you can do these things. But this person has already done it. Okay? Some of them in the back of their houses, we hear stories of in the garages, people sitting there. They are motivated. So there's sufficient motivation for a lot of innovators. The question that comes when I've traveled to check on the different setups in different countries to see how they set up innovation hubs, the funds, the mentorship programs, and whatever for young innovators. The question is, at what point do you intervene? Okay? At what point do you intervene before you start compromising the factors that motivate a person to start the idea or to begin in the first place? At what point do you intervene? Because if you intervene at the wrong place, you are either likely to disrupt, okay? And sometimes you could even just confuse the person. And the reason why most innovators that you can even, if I ask you to give me one of your, what I would call that has inspired you, one innovators, you agree with me. Most of them either they dropped out of school, they quit their job, whatever, for them to go and finish. The reason is simple. You know, innovation does not follow the norm, does not follow standard. In organizations, in companies, there is something that you need to follow. To be innovative, you have to break the ceiling. You have to do things differently. And those different things cannot be permitted or tolerated in a company. In some cases, even in the law, you will not be permitted to do it. Sometimes the law will not permit you to do it. You have to break a lot of things to innovate. Because like I always say, innovation always happens at the frontiers of legality. It's in the extra-legal sector. Just where the law ends, that's where innovation starts. The idea is because you want to break what people already generally accept, this is the norm. You have to break to be innovative. In most of these innovative hubs and programs, there's always an expert who helps you navigate the regulatory landmarks, because they recognize that as you progress, there are so many things that you can be breaking and regulation. So there are people who just basically sit with you and help you to understand that for what you're doing this, will do this, and then they help you to navigate those barriers. And it's an essential component of every innovative program that you can set up in a country. And in this particular case, I have to tell you that there's as part of the current government, the New Dawn policy is to promote innovation hubs. Okay, create innovation hubs, places where you could, if you're in need of help, you need of mentorship, you need of space, you need of marketing ideas, you need of any expert knowledge you can go to and you can have access to it. Either locating in that same place, if it's a physical space, or simply having access to it from wherever you are operating from. So the question about innovation and how we need to come to support you is a major point of discussion. At what point do you intervene? You cannot make a person an innovator if they are not self-driven. The reason is it's a trying of an idea, and the trying of an idea has a lot of risks, there are a lot of costs. They are prepared to go back and forth as many times as they can. In a company, they'll call you, they'll tell you that's wastage of resources. You tried it 2 times, it failed, and you're still coming back to get some more money, okay? But when you are by yourself and you're motivated, no matter how many times you fail and try, you've heard the stories of how many times people have tried and failed, those that are successful. In a company, in some structure, they will not let you. They'll tell you, no, that's too much, and we've already spent 200. So you move out from there. So innovation is a process that requires people to take a lot of risks, back and forth, trying things. So we have to be careful in terms of what support. But the last part, if I can just wind up on this, is where you say how we can support you as an innovator. If you don't have a framework that I'm talking about, which is being set up now, we're having now some works in terms of having a innovative framework. It's very difficult for you to get the support that you're referring to. When you innovate, what you want to do is 2 things, like I said. One, you give it up. The other one is you yourself do it. So if you want to do it, what you're asking for is resources, isn't it? Financial resources, so that you can develop it into a business. That's part of what is being proposed, and we want to be working on how present and available in the country. The other one is to support you to produce the product itself. That's why these innovation hubs are to mentor you and everything else until you produce the product. So even if sometimes attach people who have done similar things, who have knowledge of them, so that they can help you move to the last step, to the launch of the product. So they are part of the solution of the innovation fund that I was talking about. I took time to talk about innovation in terms of, so that people don't get mistaken, that you can actually pick up a kid from school and tell them, you know what, I think join this class, I want you to be, no. They are self-driven. They're innovators, they have a desire to fix something, and they can. But we need to identify them and place them somewhere and be prepared to support them. Thank you.
Amazing. No, I love the passion of which you speak concerning these matters. And when you were speaking of entrepreneurship, innovation, and how the ministry of the government is concerned about that, it reminded me of what the president was saying about some of the projects we're planning to do with regard to using the internet to teach young people how to make a living. So now, the immediate thought that came to my head is certainly hope to have another day open door policy, because we'll certainly be visiting your office, to get those things underway. Because I can clearly see that our interests are aligned. With that said, thank you so much for coming through. We will be allowing our guest of honor to take his leave so that he can attend to other matters. And during that time, we have a networking break. So you can get to know the person that's next to you. We are in the same space after all, we need to get to know one another. And during that time, you may also go by the banner either outside or here, take a picture, and tag us on social media, Twitter, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, tag us, and say something about attending the ISO Zambia launch. We are excited to be ahead. So thank you so much, Sam. We're very glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
So right after our networking break, we're going to have a panel discussion where we're going to have interesting conversations, especially around the internet penetration and how we can increase internet access to the rest. So yeah, we can get to know one another.